I'm going to ask ChatGPT.
So audio is live. I know that our community has been waiting for us to start the live stream, so welcome. Thank you all for tuning in. We just concluded our round of interviews with our finalists, and we are really grateful not only to the candidates who came for that, but for everybody who participated in this process. And a special thank you to those who hosted our candidates all day across the district. You all invested a lot of time and effort into this process, and we are internally grateful. We have gotten tour feedback. It is here before us. That's part of what the board members have been doing since we wrapped up the interviews, is pouring through your feedback on the three candidates. So at this time, we're waiting for our feedback on the interviews to be tabulated. And while we're waiting for that to happen, I'm going to invite the board to begin the deliberative process. We will start with our first candidate who had an interview with us today. That is Rebecca Bordeau. And just invite each board member to go around and say 1 to 2 positive things about the interview and the candidate. And then we will have board members who did additional reference checks share a summary of those. So Clerk Wilhelm Garbers, would you like to begin the positive?
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to. Well, first of all, I just want to thank her, along with all of our candidates, for the time and intentionality in which they have participated in this process. Regarding her, a couple things I would like to highlight. One is, it was very clear that there is a deep alignment, in her own language, of a heart. We are a heart match of her own values with our district values, and that was incredibly clear. I would also want to highlight that she seems very much to be a both-and leader, pairing together things that often are seen as being contrasting, particularly what does it look like to bring equity and excellence, being listening and collaborative while also ensuring that we have implementation and action, these sorts of both-and things. Those were 2 things I appreciated a lot about her.
Thank you.
2 things I wrote down. First and foremost, I wrote, it just came across that she is a genuinely kind person. And I appreciated that about her. The other thing that I wrote down is that she had clearly done homework on the district. And then it seemed like she had enjoyed her time on the tours and closed with, I wrote a quote, "It'd be an honor." So clearly had done her homework and then seen the fit for herself personally.
I also want to thank her for her time and her investment. She clearly has a heart for education, for the students, the staff, and even the families that she identified as our kids' first educators. And she identified herself as a learner and a collaborator over and over again. And a powerful piece to support her collaboration was finding commonality with people, even if you begin a conversation seemingly opposed. And her speaking through the importance of that and finding how, at our core, what we really want when we're engaging in these difficult or potentially difficult conversations is what is best for children. And that's the center of the work that we do.
Thank you. I was struck by her question to the board in that it boiled down to, her question for us was, what does community need from me? And I feel like that kind of encapsulates her presentation in a nutshell, her interview experience, very focused on community, relationships, collaboration, listening, getting to the heart of an issue. I also liked her response to one of our questions where she called out mental health, and specifically the way to address that is social emotional learning, and the value she placed on that, you could tell it was really high. And she spoke to, in particular, the way she saw that manifesting in different spaces across our district. And I thought that was really, really powerful.
What I really like about Rebecca is she had a lot of she emphasized collaboration a lot in her answers, and made it a central point that she is looking to build with community and not on behalf, like to build with community and about community. She was a partner. She emphasized that she's a partner in this work with us, and that she wants to have as many people at the table as possible to help us execute the Vision 2031. And so that's what I got from her, especially when she said uniting communities around a shared promise. That's really powerful to me, because identifying a shared promise amongst different communities can be difficult, especially in this day and age. And so with that being a priority of hers was really key to me. And then also, I did also, Chair Andreessen, like her question around like, what does community need from me? What it demonstrated to me was that she's looking for community to help lead her in the work that she's doing with Hopkins. And then also the question about keeping the politics out of the classroom. And she talked about the having those hard conversations and not shying away from them, like addressing them head on and having it thoughtfully and intentionally, regardless of what side of the aisles you're on. She was candid about her intentionality around difficult conversations. And so I really like that from her.
One item under response from gathering input, where she talked about adopting a new math curriculum, and she had a very structured way of gathering the feedback. It seemed very intentional and strategic, and I think I really liked her thought about piloting it as well, with educators kind of being at the forefront of that, getting that feedback and making improvements and scaling it up. I thought that was very shrewd, and I think it really could have really good outcomes. I also like that she had in her answers interconnections between the different questions, right? Where she said, hey, we talked about this, and here was my answer for that previous thing, but this is also, the flip side of that coin, and also related. And I think she really demonstrates some nuance there that I really appreciated.
I thought Becky was incredibly authentic, warm, comes off very approachable, and she seems like someone that community, teachers, other stakeholders would gravitate towards. Like, she's just feels warm and kind and respectful in that way. And I also really like how relationship focused she is. She talked about she's a relationship leader. She collaborates over and over. And I think our district really wants to build trust and transparency, and you can only do that through building strong relationships. So I appreciated that about her answers.
So then Treasurer Hartland and I spent this week doing additional reference calls and having conversations with different people. So we're each going to give a summary of those conversations. Would you like to start with your summary of Rebecca's, or would you like me?
I'd be happy to start with
Great.
Rebecca. As Chair Andreessen mentioned, we had the pleasure of doing reference checks for all of our candidates over between last Monday and this Monday. And people fell all over themselves to recommend Rebecca Brogier. A quote that I got from one of her references was, "She has a heart of gold and is the best I've ever worked with." Over and over again, people reference that she was deeply experienced and active. She's proactive, she's visionary, can respond to needs and then support initiatives so that programs endure. And this person gave several examples of initiatives she began during her time in leadership that have continued to this day, sometimes for years. She's a skilled mentor and nurturer of talent, very accountable, and has the unique style of calling people in versus calling people out. Someone referenced her ability to see systems and find the levers to pull to change outcomes. And she openly owns any mistakes and constantly grows. And one person mentioned she has experience with both huge and very small budgets.
I spoke with colleagues, staff, students, and community members, which includes caregivers. She is, and this is a summary of what I heard from them. She is consistently described as a highly skilled communicator who leads with grace, especially during challenging periods. Contributors highlight her tenacious problem-solving abilities and her unwavering commitment to inclusive education and professional development for all staff members. The references emphasize her active community presence and her unique ability to remain calm while navigating complex district dynamics. Ultimately, the collective feedback portrays her as a visionary and empathetic leader who is prepared for a superintendent role. Dr. Bordeau's, I'm going to really love knowing how to pronounce her last name. Her leadership style is characterized by a blend of directness, deep empathy, and a strong commitment to equity. According to sources, her defining characteristics include direct and responsive communication, calm and resilient conflict management, a focus on equity and inclusion, supportive and empowering staff leadership, tenacious and practical execution, and high community visibility.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I forgot to add that I spoke primarily with board members, teachers, and administrative, either peers or supervisors.
And a lot of people had dual roles too, so you would get a couple of bangs for your buck. So then we can move to our second candidate. And I did just briefly want to mention before we get too far down this road that through this whole process, we've been reminded repeatedly by MSBA that we will be getting some unsolicited feedback on these candidates, and just that it is our job as board members not to dismiss that feedback, but to use discernment in how it is coloring our deliberations here. So just wanted to remind everybody that that's part of our role in this process, is to make sure that we're giving everyone a fair and reasonable assessment. So our second candidate is Andy Beaton. And Director Hyman, would you like to start the round robin of strengths? 1 to 2, please.
I thought Andrew Beaton's presentation was by far the most effective and direct and targeted. I think he comes off with precision, and he's very precise and direct. And I see that really as a positive. And I really liked his question that he had for us at the end. What are you most proud of that's happened in Hopkins? I feel like we talk a lot about what opportunities we have, and sometimes don't always think about what we're really proud of. And I appreciated that he wanted to turn that narrative at the board table.
Just to piggyback on what you said, I really appreciated that his presentation fed into a lot of his answers as well. It seemed like it was a real thing that he's put a lot of thought into, and he didn't set aside his priorities, but he used them to kind of talk about what he would do in certain situations, or how he is as a education leader. So I thought that was very authentic, and I liked that a lot. And it's clear that he understands a lot of our challenges as a district. He spent a lot of time talking about some of the things that certainly we hear from community and we experience as well as the board. So he talked a lot about that, and I thought that it was very apt, some of the things he said, and some of the challenges that he thinks we have.
I would say for Andy as well, that I really like that he touched on safety and security and the different aspects that is underlines within safety and security, such as like psychological safety, which a lot of folks dismiss as we focus on like the physical security of like staff and students. And so having a plan for your mental health in the workplace was really a key factor for me when he mentioned that. And then also, I really appreciate his analogy around turning over the rocks and then like getting looking at the wiggles under it, because sometimes even when I turn over a rock and you see a bug under it, like you run and scream. But like turning over a rock and then just facing your fear of what's under that rock really does stick out to me as the transparency of what needs to change. And like you are there to turn over that rock regardless of your fears. And so I really like that. And then also putting metrics around Vision 2031 and having some data-driven metrics put around the goals and the priorities under Vision 2031, and making it turning from aspirational to action. And so I appreciated what he said around that, and then his equity work that he have done in different places.
I also appreciated his question to us. I thought that was a really nice way to start off, to get us talking about what we're proud of. And I appreciated his response to closing the achievement gaps. I think that what really struck me was that he experienced classrooms that weren't even teaching to standards, and how that changed. All students deserve to have education that is standards-based.
For me, I was struck by Andrew's sense of humor and joy. And also, he did bring a strong command of data and systems and metrics to his interview today, and that kind of shined from his presentation through the end of his interview.
One thing I would mention is, I thought a number of times he did a great job of providing a concrete example of something that he had done that went towards answering the question. And one of the ones that I was struck by was when he talked about his time as a principal in Bloomington creating single-use bathrooms. you know, it seems years before this has become a topic now. So that was the first thing I wrote, and then I agree with a lot of what has been said. I think to just add one thing is, not only putting metrics to things underneath Vision 2031, but then taking that a step further and really naming to be able to operationalize the vision was something I was just struck by how much thought he had put into that.
Two things I'd want to note about just what I appreciated about him. The one is that he began his presentation with his own why. And I think I found myself, as I was hearing him, just this sense he talked about the hopes and dreams our community has, and grounded from his own why, like he told us his hopes and dreams. And it made me to the question of, and what am I proud of? What are my hopes and dreams as well? What do we hope and dream for this district? And so I thought that was a through line that was profoundly human and also aspirational in a practical vision. What are your hopes and dreams? And here's the why that comes into fruition. I think another thing I want to highlight that I really appreciated was the courage that it takes as a candidate to be honest, to come into an interview in a district and say, here's the beautiful things that are happening, here's your aspirations, and I love this. And we have some opportunities and some work to do. And I'm going to lean into that and name that because it can feel easier to do an ego stroke of just everything about you is perfect. Great. And so that felt very real and like something tangible that both can celebrate and bring forward the best of who we are while also continuing to improve as well.
So I can share a summary of my reference checks. I spoke with a student and a community member. The student valued his supportive listening and being empowered by Beaton, giving her creative credit and the ability to lead with her ideas. Beyond his professional competence, he is consistently present within the school community, noting his attendance at athletic events and his ability to build personal connections with students. He is described as an administrator who prioritizes follow-through and seeks collaborative ways to improve the district.
And I spoke with an administrator and a teacher, and they mentioned that he likes to bring people together and can build community, that he not only raises expectations, but helps people reach those expectations, that he has learned a lot in his last couple of years and has experience negotiating with unions and handling all kinds of situations that a superintendent might encounter. He is kind and funny, and a quote from one of his references he is not just a manager, but a really good leader.
Okay, and now we can move on to our third and final candidate, Dr. Michael Thomas. Clerk Wilhelm Garbers, if you would like to start the 1 to 2 positive strengths.
Yeah, thank you. The two things that I would want to highlight about, as he shared with us today, that I appreciated. The one is that he's decidedly a both and leader. So equity is about each and all. And these sorts of things just kept coming back and forth where he was able to name that frequently about the sense of the both and holding those tensions in ways that the vision and the action, the embodiment and the theory, these sorts of things, he held a lot of tensions together in a way that I really appreciated. Another thing I really valued about him is the way that he brought together the sense of vision with alignment and action, and how data and reliance upon that can help us to really lean in ways that help us to author new chapters and raise the tide together. And so vision, alignment, action, informed by data to help the tide rise higher for everybody.
The first thing I wrote down was clearly passionate and genuinely cares. I thought that just, he exudes a love of, public education and the promise that it holds, that, theory of the tides bringing everyone up. It just clearly comes across with him. And, something I would build upon that I heard Clerk Wilhelm Garbers mention is, there's the theory and there's the research and the theory, and you need to marry that theory with the boots on the ground, the reality in the classroom every day. And the fact that he thinks about that is really important.
Thank you. Yes, I perceive him as deeply experienced and thoughtful and committed to education. That came through with his every answer. He has very strong leadership and oversight experience, and just spoke over and over again about collaboration, about raising expectations, and kind of about seeing things, students, classrooms, systems holistically. And he provided concrete examples from his work, which I appreciated.
Thank you. I also appreciated that, that in all his responses, there was that concrete example, but not only of his experience, but of what he saw today here in Hopkins. I heard that in, I think, almost every answer. He had an example of something he had, an experience he had, or an observation he made while he was here in our buildings. And not only that, but he tied it back to when he was here 9 years ago, and he could see the growth and the difference, and tied it to himself. I felt like that just shows a depth of perception and thoughtfulness that not often comes from someone in a leadership position like that, that can be very far removed. And I loved that he ended it by saying he hopes he can call Hopkins home. And I felt that from him, that tangible, real energy of wanting to come here and to continue the work and to be part of the community. And yeah.
What I appreciate about Dr. Thomas was first his exceptional financial stewardship and expertise around school finances was key to me, because it is one of the things that we have been saying as a shared goal is to make sure that our district is more fiscally responsible. And he have named that several times throughout just like the entirety of the interview, of his deep knowledge and understanding of school finances. And so that was a key expectation for me. And also his extensive experience with equity and designing equity, different equity practices, I will say. I didn't really get the initiative part from him. It all was more so like a practice, which I really appreciate when we take things from being an initiative to it being an embedded practice. And that's what I was learning from the stories that he was sharing in his responses. And also just that mentorship that he planned to bring to like staff. And then he talked about staff capacity, which is another thing that I think was a very strong point, because a lot of the times staff are overworked and there's a lot on their plates, which impacts the operations of a district. And to relieve them of to help them alleviate some of that capacity through operations and efficiencies. He was strong in that area, so I appreciate him bringing that into the perspective as well.
Yeah, Dr. Thomas has a lot of experience, and it definitely shined through in his interview questions, especially around the academic achievement gaps. His question, I thought there was very, very strong, where he talked about how you go from that theory of the case and pushing it through via standards and policy with monitoring and everything like that, and told a very compelling story about how he closed some of those gaps with some really, really great results over in Colorado. And just overall, you could tell that his answers had a lot of nuance to them that I think you have to discover in many ways after becoming a superintendent, right? Like there's a lot of expectations and a lot of differing priorities that you have to kind of coordinate. And, there's not, unfortunately, for some, an alternative to having those. It's just, you have it or you don't, so.
One thing I appreciated about Dr. Thomas was his response when we asked him to share his perspective on the importance of gathering input from the community and other stakeholders. And he said, better decisions are made when we make them together. And he also mentioned the higher the stakes, the higher the engagement. And I really liked the fact that he doesn't seem like the type of leader that would make a decision, in his office by himself or in the back room. He's going to talk with teams and experts and the community and stakeholders before making a decision. So I think that demonstrates to me that he has sound judgment before making a recommendation. He really makes sure he understands all perspectives when making decisions. And I also really liked I'll just mention what Director Thompson also said, that while he leans into research and theory, he talked about boots on the ground. And I think that's really important, that we can, you can read as many books as you want, you can get as many degrees as you want, you can write dissertations and do all the things, but if you can't implement, then what's the value? And so I really appreciated his emphasis on his ability to operationalize, implement, take theory and put it into actual practice and outcomes.
Thank you. Do you want to start with your summary reference checks?
Yeah, that would be great. I spoke with a couple of administrators and a couple of teachers about Dr. Thomas. And again, I think Chair Andreessen and I had the experience of having so many people be recommended to be his reference that we couldn't actually get to them all. One person said, as a quotation, "Education and its betterment is his personal mission," and, quote, "Hopkins will be a great match with Dr. Thomas." He was described as down to earth, despite his impressive depth of knowledge, that he knows how to onboard and get up to speed quickly, that that he knows how to support people in all of their roles, and gave some really compelling examples of various administrators that he has mentored and led, and even school board candidates, and how he helped and supported them in their run. Several people mentioned his financial expertise and his ability to align resources to desired outcomes. Multiple references talked about, how he mentioned that people will kind of tease me about my truth, trust, and transparency. Several people referenced that, yeah, he says that and does that. Multiple people mentioned how active he is at all levels of legislature, from in his backyard and Prior Lake up to the federal level, trying to change the education landscape. And then one thing that struck me was every person said that it will be a real loss for Prior Lake if we hire him, and that we would be lucky to have him.
Thank you. I spoke with community leaders, parents, and former school board members, and often they're dual role people. The contributors characterize him as an exceptional superintendent who balances a visible presence at school events with high-level legislative advocacy for education funding. He is specifically praised for his diplomatic leadership style, his dedication to equity inclusion, and his ability to remain calm while navigating challenges. The accounts highlight his authentic personality and his talent for fostering personal growth in others through meaningful connections. Each expressed a desire to keep him because he is a visionary administrator who consistently prioritizes the welfare of his students. Dr. Thomas's leadership style is defined by authenticity, empowerment, and a solutions-oriented approach. He is described as a remarkable leader who works hard to do what is right for the community and public education. The leadership style is defined by diplomacy and calm, problem-solving, advocacy, equity-driven, and adaptability. Sources note that he lights up when he is around students and is deeply engaged in building relationships with them. His focus is always on what is best for students. And that concludes our strengths.
Thank you very much. I really appreciated hearing what you all noticed, and it is clear that you paid very, very close attention to the answers that all three finalists gave you, so thank you for that. I'm going to very briefly review two things, the tours today and the EMD form. So I'm going to pass this out first, and I think I'll just start over here and ask you to pass it around the board table. I'll start with a very high-level overview of the tours, and I want to thank the staff at Hopkins Public Schools that put these together. I think it was a very valuable exercise to include them in some feedback. So today, there were tours held at 4 locations. The first was Eisenhower, Xingxing, and Juntos. Another was the central office, also North Middle School, and Hopkins High School. At each of those sites, there was a mix of staff and students, except for at central office, where there was about 12 staff with multiple reps from each department. And for example, at both the middle school and Eisenhower, Xingxing, and Juntos, there were about 6 staff, about 2 students, and another 4 students that joined them for lunch. And then at the high school, there were 4 students participating and about 8 staff. So at each site, in total, approximately 10 to 12 students and staff participated in the tours. Cabinet members were also included with each of the 3 finalists and got to meet all 3 of them. And in terms of who from staff were at each of these locations, it included a combination of administrators, teachers, and support staff combinations at each of those sites. So almost 50 people. The information that they submitted was on the strengths that they noticed, up to 3 strengths of each of the finalists, as well as any areas of growth that they might suggest, again, up to 3. All of those comments were submitted anonymously, so they're not tied specifically to the students or specifically to a staff member. And I think that allows people to be more candid in their input because they know that their anonymity is protected in terms of providing that feedback. So thank you, board members, for reading through all of that. It was well over 20 pages of feedback, and I think those tour participants did an excellent job for you. So consider that input in addition to what you have heard from references and the strengths. And then the EMD form, I'm not going to spend very long on it. I'll just remind you that the exceeds, meets, disappoints scale, the more exceeds someone has, and you had that rubric that very clearly laid out what you would look for to have an answer exceed expectations, that's good. The more E's that there are, the more D's or disappoints, that's not as good. So it is an indication of how this board feels in general about the quality that the candidates, of the answers the candidates gave you. It is, however, just one tool. You have a lot of items at your disposal to consider quantitatively and qualitatively when you make your decision about who you might enter into negotiations with for the next position of superintendent here. So that's all I planned to share. At this point, I'd like to turn it back over to Chair Andreessen, and the board can begin your deliberations about what you feel you might want to do next.
Thank you, Barb. I want to express deep gratitude to you and your team for all the tools and guidance, and just the process, I think, went so well that, and a lot of that goes to you and your team, so deeply grateful. I also want to express my deep gratitude to Natalia, and I believe Nick, and all the admin team that helped set up those tours, helped us have great things to eat while we're having these long days, and just everything you did. I don't think we even have an idea of the little details that you took care of, which we didn't notice because you took care of them, so thank you. And the people who are on the tours, I know you spent your day investing in these candidates and in this process, so thank you so much for that. And I agree, this feedback was invaluable, and we all take it very seriously, because at the end of the day, you are the ones that are going to be most impacted by this decision. So your input is vital to this process. So that being said, I would like to get an idea, as the board has had a chance to look through all of our data that goes into making this decision, if we want to go around and maybe just name who you feel individually you're leaning toward for offering this position, and there is also the option of not. Some boards do come to that decision at the end of this process that no one was the right fit. So that is an option that I'm putting before you. So you have, I guess, 4 responses before you, possible responses. Does anyone want to go first? And we'll go around, or I can start. I would say that after looking at all the data, I am leaning toward Dr. Thomas.
This is a very hard decision, and I want to just say all the candidates did such an incredible job that you have us here at 10:25 p.m. making deliberations on how your greatness. So kudos to everyone who went through this process. And then also going by the data and looking at all of the feedback from the tours, looking at the EDMs, looking at all of the answers. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you. Director Zhao.
Yeah, this is a tough decision. I tallied my own sheet up, and they're neck and neck. So can I pass, and can you come back to me?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm not leaning one way or the other. Yeah, I'd like to pass as well.
Okay.
I see the pros of both, so I'd like to hear more discussion.
So I would like to echo my colleague Vice Chair Roper in the just deep affirmation, like a beautiful thing, and again, gratitude to everyone, because I honestly feel like if we did go with any of these three candidates, we would have a wonderful leader for our district, which is a really amazing and humbling and a little bit mystifying and stressful moment to be in as a board member.
It is.
That being said, as I consider the feedback from the board, from what we heard from the tours, and then regrounding my own self in the community feedback around what's important, for me, there are two candidates that I would support equally, being the next superintendent, and for me, that would be Andrew Beaton and Dr. Michael Thomas. And I will eventually come to one, but I just would like to name that all three are great. Given everything, those would be my top two.
Echo everything that's been said. So appreciative of these three individuals' time, talent, what they shared with us. It's got to be a tough experience to make yourself as vulnerable as you are. I agree with what's been echoed by a lot of people, that I feel, to me, while all three could do the job, there's two that I'm excited about. And, I never have a problem speaking my mind, so I'll say I'm, slightly more excited at the moment by the prospect of Andrew Beaton. I think some of what he talked about regarding organizational, operational excellence just seems to tip it a bit to me at the moment.
I'm happy to get into whys and wherefores later, but for the sake of conciseness, this definitely is a matter of choosing the best among great candidates and not a lack on anyone's part. I am currently leaning towards Dr. Thomas.
Thank you. So for those who are not wanting to say, and those who are equally divided, do we want to have another round of talking about what we feel are the strengths of candidates? Would that be helpful, or are you just needing a little more time to look over the data?
I mean, I can start. It's really tough because Andrew Beaton, and the way that he articulates his work, and the work that he have done is incredibly, would be an incredible asset to our district, especially the way that he handles conflict. That was one of the major things to me. And also, if I'm being fair and going off the data and based on one of the goals, the financial piece was a really big priority of the districts. And that was like the tipping point for me, was like the financial aspect. But I agree, while all of them were incredible, Dr. Thomas and Andrew Beaton are neck and neck to me. And the deciding factor to me was the financials. So that was the reason, because both were great. Like, all three were great.
So just to clarify for you, Dr. Thomas displayed stronger around financials?
Financials, yes. He displayed stronger around financials, but Andrew was around conflicts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will just share the reason for my leaning toward Dr. Thomas is one, his depth of experience distinguishes him for me. I feel like there will be no learning curve, not even learning about Hopkins. He showed a deep understanding of conversations we've had recently at this board table and not so recently. He clearly has been invested in the district and showed that through the comments that he made. I don't think he'd need to be brought up to speed on our audit situation. He wouldn't need to be brought up to speed on a lot of the conversations we're having at the board table. And that felt really reassuring to me, knowing that there are some stuff that we're grappling with as a district, and I feel like he's already has an understanding of that. Yes.
I think one thing why I'm stuck, where I'm pondering is, to me, Andrew Beaton has the classroom experience. He has experience being a teacher and working all the way up through administration to the highest levels of administration, which I think demonstrates incredible leadership and courage and perseverance. For someone to go from a classroom teacher all the way up to administration, I think he can relate in a different way to curriculum and classroom instruction than someone that may not have that direct classroom experience. The other thing about Andrew Beaton was he seems to be, he seems tough, right? He seems tough, and he seems like maybe the parent that's going to give tough love. And that's, I think, what Vice Chair Roper was referring to earlier about picking up the rock and looking at the worms underneath the rock and figuring out what to do with them. I think that's where I'm struggling. It's like, do you want the parent with tough love, who's going to be tough and I think make change and dive in head first and be forthright and honest and transparent? Not that Dr. Thomas wouldn't be, because I think he would be all those things. I think his style is very different. And so that's where I'm struggling from a leadership perspective and current district needs, who the better fit is at this point, given all the data we've collected. Thinking back about the survey, stakeholder survey, especially coming from the teachers, and thinking about what they valued and wanted to see. They really wanted to see someone with classroom and curriculum experience, and so that tips me towards Andrew Beaton. Well, I think Dr. Thomas has broader, deeper experience, and I agree, Chair Andreessen, that I think he could come in day one, and I would trust him to be the captain of the ship. So that's where I'm stuck. I'm just ruminating out loud. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, it will help someone else come to some clarity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
As a fence sitter,
Go for it.
as a fence sitter, I will say for Andrew Beaton, I appreciated that his answers in the second round especially were much more succinct than, I think he got to the point and was pretty laser focused on delivering the message. And, I appreciate that as somebody, potentially if he's the superintendent, that there will be times where that's very necessary, and probably by default, that's necessary to be succinct and, get to the point and like, okay, let's move on with it. Unless the circumstance dictates some verbosity. But I did appreciate that about his second round interview.
While I appreciate kind of the Andrew Beaton's classroom experience, one thing that I was personally struck by was that despite not the traditional classroom experience, he does have Dr. Thomas does have classroom support experience, and that he demonstrated over and over again kind of empathy for the plight of teachers and a demonstrated kind of understanding and respect for the demands of that job and for the kind of mental health and burnout aspect and just for the great load that they carry, not just, for themselves and is their 9 to 5, but, upon which we're kind of building a society, and talked about the courage to say no to some things and the courage to potentially remove some burden from them in order to stay really focused on our goals. And that speaks to me very clearly. It's something that I worry about all the time. I worry about that. That's my gray hair inducing, that's my ADMs, but is to think about what is it that we're asking of people who serve in public education. And how is it sustainable? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I am in awe of people who show up every day. And so him speaking about that repeatedly, in addition, of course, to showing empathy for students of all backgrounds and goals and even administrators. I mean, he demonstrated that, that he knows that they have a hard job and spoke to I kind of lobbied for this question 11 to be included. It is so important to me, but I was really struck by the understanding and empathy he showed for our teaching and support staff.
I'll just name where I'm at and what's impacting why I'm in the moment I am. I think part of it is, I think they both, when I look at what our areas of expertise, personal, specialized, all the things, I'm like, check, check, check. Like, thank you. You all showed up and understood the assignment and just really nailed it out of the park with that. And I think, too, just Director Hyman, what you had named, particularly about Andrew Beaton's presentation, the ways in which he came in with such clairvoyance around the beauty of our district and a real clear passion for education and our district, and an ability to say, and here's some opportunities we have. I thought his interview today was so profoundly strong. So that's where I'm like, thank you, that was, so great. And when I look at the feedback that we receive from ourselves and from the tours, that's where I go to Dr. Thomas, because I think that he emerged more consistently as a little bit stronger candidate across the board in those spaces. So I'm just acknowledging, I'm holding there, both great. Thank you for understanding the assignment. Oh, this is hard. Wow, the way you showed up tonight, that was so helpful. They both showed up really well, and I particularly was grateful for the way Andrew showed up in that particular way. And then I ended up being like, well, and as I look, though, at what the feedback in view of what our community has told us they want and what people are saying and what we ourselves said, then I end up at, we have to go with Dr. Thomas, And so that's where I'm at of why I think I'm feeling, and it just feels weighty, and I'm feeling that too. I'm like, this is a big decision, and we all love this district, we care, and so I'm feeling that too, just to acknowledge that that's impacting my choice phobia.
It's a lot, and I think I named that when we were talking about how this would go. The deliberations are the hardest part. And you're carrying, it's heavy. It's a big decision, and it's a lot to consider. And so thank you for naming that and putting that out there, because I think we're all feeling it right now. Because again, as Treasurer Hartland said, we're choosing the best from great, which is a lovely position to be in. At the same time, it would have been nice if,
You'd brought us bad candidates.
they had made it easier for us, right? Like, that would have been nice. So, yes. I think that us having increased conversation around why we're thinking about each candidate is a good conversation to have. So thanks for that.
Chair Andreessen?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I think to Vice Chair Roper's point about the financial, I'm looking at my old notes here for Dr. Thomas, and I wrote down that in his district, that they spend 3% of their budget on admin, which is very, very low. I think Hopkins is like 4.6 or something like that, and which is actually lower than kind of state average. And so I think, in that aspect, the kind of management under pressure, in some ways, that does tip me a little bit more towards Dr. Thomas. Just being like, it's, I think identifying future revenue or cost savings is demonstrated with Dr. Thomas more.
Chair Andreessen?
Yes.
And I just want to be clear, as I said from the beginning, like, I am excited about either of those candidates. And, I just appreciate the discussion on this board, because to Vice Chair Roper's point about the finances tipping for her, Dr. Thomas, I completely get it. Appreciate Director Zhao chipping in regarding the admin fee. What you said, Chair Andreessen, about, just day one readiness, for sure. Appreciated Treasurer Hartland's comments about, and I had written it down too, about teacher capacity, need to understand what they can handle. I thought that was a great point. And then to Clerk WG's point about, our own data, tour data, like, I'm totally good with Dr. Thomas too. So I feel like we're moving somewhere.
Somewhere.
Moving
I
somewhere
appreciate
is
that.
good. And I did.
Chair Andreessen,
Yes.
would it be helpful to look at the leadership profile just to affirm, reroute ourselves in our mission?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I'm good with that.
I think that would be great. And I did want to just call out one other thing that struck me with Dr. Thomas was under Treasurer Hartland, question 11. He said something that really struck me. He said schools are administration's primary customer. And I'd never heard that before. And it just really, and that just kind of colored everything he said after that, which really, yeah, it just really struck me. And throughout the interview, I felt like he put responsibility where it belongs. Oftentimes, and I've said this at the board table before, I feel like in education, we place responsibility on students for their success when it belongs with the adults in the system. And he did that consistently through his interview. He put the responsibility where it belongs and showed ways in which he would hold us as a system accountable to that. And that felt really good to me, and the sign of a really good leader.
I would also like to add that I love the fact that Dr. Thomas advocates at the that he's an advocate in the legislature as well. And I think that the LAC would appreciate his advocacy for sure, and just like the relationships that he have, like in that realm. And then also like his equity work really stuck out to me. And that was a common theme throughout the surveys from the tours. But then also with Andrew, this is like, I can't believe this.
Uh-oh.
Then like with Andrew,
Are we still moving? Are we still moving, though?
Zigzag
kidding.
move.
I know, I'm just saying because Andrew is awesome is what like his demeanor, and then I loved like the way that he put like the way that he was able to provide like context around specific examples, and the way that he really just presented his answer so clear and assuring that like if a situation was to come up, like he would handle it through a really strategic process, and that stuck out to me too. But then again, like I said, going just with the financial piece of it would be Dr. Thomas. And then if we're going off of principal value of like data that we have in front of us from the EDM and from the feedback, it looks like Dr. Thomas was a bit stronger. So
Yes.
I just want to recognize something that Vice Chair Roper said. I think Andrew Beaton does a very good job of using layman's terms, plain English, and so his answers come off as really understandable. And I think that's perhaps Clerk WG why he shined so much tonight. I think that he seems like a real guy, right? As opposed to like an academic or like an untouchable, you know? And I also think Dr. Thomas is rooted in reality and has the skills and breadth of experience to take our district in the direction I think we all want to see it go in. And so I'm with Director Thompson. Like, I'm fine with either, and or I'd be happy with either. I shouldn't say I'd be fine with either. I'd be thrilled with either. Like, this is, can we pick two? But I'll defer back to the data. And based on the data, I would say that tips it to Dr. Thomas. And there's got to be a tipping point. So I think looking at the data and following the data, that's the candidate that's indicated, best suited for the job.
Chair Andreessen?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, as a PhD, I have to acknowledge that I did, also very much appreciate Andrew Beaton, and I just think it's what's important to me too with that we heard from Dr. Thomas is the both and, which I keep coming back to, but I think absolutely, like, even you first referenced for us how he had named, here's the theory, like when we're talking about educational gaps and equity outcomes and things like this, let me reference for you like 7 names of folks who are the leaders in this field, and then went to, and here's how we see that in practice. And the thing I would say that one of the things we heard from our community consistently is also wanting to have experience and wanting to have that. And I think that's one of the things I appreciate is that he does have the experience. So there's no one in this pool who's just a theory person, and I say this as a nerd, right? They all are people who have evidence from their work, and I do really appreciate that. And Oh, the thing within that last thing I wanted to name was, one of the things that really struck me in our recent hire for our high school superintendent was principal, conflating things at 10:51 at night. In hiring our new high school principal, is that anyone that I have heard from or heard from who are connected at Washburn univocally named what a loss for us and what a win for you. And that really struck me then, not to overly weight this, right? You named this Treasurer Heartland, that you did. I'm sorry, Chair Andrew.
I think all of us,
You both
every
said that.
person we talked to said that.
Said that is our loss. And if we're going to hire someone, I mean, I think people would say that about both of them. And for a proven leader to have people say about them, it's a loss, that's a big deal, especially if you're a superintendent and people are sad you're leaving, or the idea of you leaving. That's no small thing in today's educational landscape. And so that to me also says this is a person who doesn't just have theory, but has shown demonstrated results. And that I think does matter, and our community needs to see that in a leader.
Yeah.
Chair Andreessen, could we go around and do another temperature check? See if
Sure.
we've moved?
I just wanted to check, Director Hyman, did you want us to reference this out loud, the leadership profile, or you just want us as a board to look at it while we were thinking?
I just wanted it to refer to.
Okay.
To kind of ground myself back
Yeah.
in what, from a high level, what is the leadership profile, and think about really who excels in
Who's
all
ticking
of those categories. They both excel in all of those categories, but who, I guess, would be the better fit. And so I just wanted everyone to have it to look at, to kind of remind themselves.
I appreciate that, because I think as I was looking over it, I was like, okay, yes, this is clear, yeah. I mean, I think it was a good grounding exercise, and also to see, you referenced a couple things, but there were also, other stuff that community had wanted that I think both candidates were displaying. So didn't want that to be glossed over. And yes, I think we should, people feel prepared, not propelled, to go around and just kind of say who now they're thinking? Does that feel like appropriate timing? Are we moving to that someplace?
Where we're moving.
All right. Treasurer Heartland, do you want to start? Then we'll go around.
Certainly. I am leaning towards Dr. Thomas.
Leaning towards Dr. Thomas.
I'm leaning towards Dr. Thomas.
I'm also leaning towards Dr. Thomas.
Leaning toward Dr. Thomas.
I'm leaning, no, what? Okay,
Sorry.
it's okay. I'm leaning towards Dr. Thomas.
And I am as well. So at this point, I would look for I gotta find my language. I would look for a motion. I look for a motion to extend the offer of an employment contract for the position of Hopkins Public Schools Superintendent to Dr. Michael Thomas, contingent upon the following: that a mutually agreeable employment contract is negotiated, and a criminal background check has already been completed with results that have been acceptable to the school board.
So moved.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Chair Andreessen.
Yes.
All of us said that we are leaning towards this candidate, and so I am ready to go ahead and vote. all of us acknowledge kind of the weight of this decision, and I just wanted to know if there was anything else that any board member like really wants to say to either our community or like anything else that really impacted, just because this is like so big that it just felt like a little bit, I'm not sure. Like there's a part of me that's like, it's 11, let's go. And then there is another part of me before we all just say, yay.
I would just say that this was, Andrew and Rebecca, you both were so strong as candidates. This was a very difficult decision. Like, this is going to be a decision where they asked me in the interview what was a tough decision. I'm going to like bring up this situation because it was really hard to decipher who, like, we had a good problem tonight and that felt good. Like, it wasn't a bad problem. We had a good problem tonight and it was really difficult to make a decision. I wish all three of you could work within our district some way, somehow. Based on data, though, right? We talked about data-driven decisions. Based on data, I had to make a data-driven decision tonight. And so, but just want to acknowledge that all three of you did an incredible job. And I want to leave it at that. You did a marvelous job tonight, all three of you.
Chair Andreessen?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Treasurer Hartland. I think that's probably wise that we maybe memorialize it or say a little bit something. But I think for community to understand that this was a very rigorous, we put a lot of thought into this decision. I think it started weeks ago or months ago, and we've kind of collectively put in hundreds and hundreds of hours going over resumes, talking to people, organizing the feedback sessions. Barb with the SBA has worked a lot. And so we definitely approach this with due thought, and I think, I think somewhat facetiously, I think, it's probably top 5 in my life decisions, right? Probably marrying my wife, having children, and then this, right? Like in my mind, that's probably where I'm at. And so, it's the futures of 7,000 kids, and 1,000 plus educators, and we all have kids in the district, and we think that this Dr. Thomas will give us the best shot for having a better outcome. And so, I think that's why I just wanted to say that, and yeah, it's a tough decision too.
Thank you.
Chair Andreessen?
Yes.
I want to echo my fellow board colleagues and everything they've expressed tonight. And Director Zhao, I want to second what you said, that this was a very in-depth, rigorous process that we went through. And I want our community to understand that we spent hours poring over resumes, references, work history, doing our own research on the internet, fielding emails from people that have a stake in our school district and some that don't even have a stake in our school district, and really trying to navigate and make the absolute best decision for the future of Hopkins Public Schools. And I just want to say that my initial reaction before meeting any of these candidates and reviewing their applications, my initial instinct and gut reaction was Dr. Thomas, and my note on his application, I said, would trust immediately right the ship, academic and data focused, has done excellent budget work in Prior Lake, is a, quote, bridge builder, which is something the district desperately needs right now. And I feel, reading that back tonight, that my initial impression and gut impression is the truth, based on everything we've seen.
Thanks for that.
Chair Andreessen, I'll just make one quick comment that you know, even though it's 11 PM, I feel like people are talking in very hushed, somber tones. Like, I'm very excited about this.
I was
Like,
really
this is
excited,
awesome. So,
Thank you.
I can barely get through saying this without getting excited, so thank you for releasing that, Director Thompson. I want confetti.
Chair Andreessen, I probably should have gone before you because I'm very excited as well, but I think I'm in this pent-up emotional state, and I kind of want to cry. But in a way, let me clarify why. I just want to say a word of sincere gratitude. And we've thanked the candidates, we thanked MSBA, the leaders in our district, all of the community members. Like, this is truly, I think, a representation of who we are at our best as a district and want to be, which is a place where we're welcoming and creating space for this is our district together. And I'm just so grateful for that. And that's all I wanted to say. But it does feel weighty. Oh, and like there's been background checks. I mean, this is not just a like, hey, let's pull names out of a hat. So just know that we are, our hearts and beings, or I'll say my heart and being, and I won't speak for everyone, but I think our hearts and beings are just in alignment of caring so deeply about this decision and about our district. And so just thank you to everyone. And I do also share the hope and excitement for the goodness of what our district has been and the even more wonderful possibilities who will continue to be together.
Chair Andreessen?
Yes.
Thank you guys all. It is like, it's a big deal. I'm very excited. I understand the emotional pull. And I did kind of want to recap, like, we had over 20 candidates. We had 6 finalists. We had 5 preliminary interviews. We had 3 finalists, 3 background checks, 20 reference checks. We collectively had hundreds of hours of reading and research. There were over 1,000 public survey respondents. There were almost 50 tour guides. We each here did over 30 hours of active time sitting at this table, so over 210 hours of sitting here. And so, like, this was not easy, and it was not supposed to be. And I am proud of us. I'm really proud of our community, proud of the work we've done so far. I'm really grateful to the candidates. And reading resumes and applications, my gut reaction as well was Dr. Thomas. Just after reading 18 people, or whoever we ended up with, something like that, who were interested and invested in Hopkins. He is the candidate that felt like he might be at home here. And so I am excited.
Yeah,
I'm a great many things, but excited and proud is our chief among them.
I love that. And how great is it that, like, we had 2 finalists who still works in our district. So shout out to Dr. Nolan and, like, Dr. Lemon, like, being an alumni of Hopkins, like, making the finalists was even an incredible achievement. So just to all the candidates, regardless, like, kudos. I'm happy that we had such a great selection of people. So those are my final thoughts for tonight.
Well, thank you. I second all of the comments, but in particular, the excitement. And I am thrilled not only that we came to a decision, because that wasn't guaranteed, and that the decision we came to. I am really excited, and he said this in his interview, but to see the ways in which Dr. Thomas is going to build on what has already happened here in the district. I am so excited to see that happen, and I am really, really excited to have a unanimous decision. I think that speaks volumes, and it tells our new superintendent that we have a lot of faith in him going forward. So thank you all for that. And so with that, I would, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye, and we have a new superintendent. Hopefully, if he accepts.
Hopefully. Yeah.
This is where we go and,
You could take a 5-minute recess. Chair
Yes.
Andreessen and I will go out in the hallway and make a quick phone call. And then when we come back, you can't quite leave yet. We have about 10 minutes of wrap-up.
Okay.
So we'll be right back, okay?
Thank you. Look at this paper.
What do you need to collect from us so I can file it?
I would like to share with the board and our community that Dr. Michael Thomas is honored to accept the offer to be Hopkins' next superintendent.
Is there a negotiation?
He's honored.
Honored, yay!
Yes, yes.
Okay.
He is honored to accept the position of being Hopkins' next superintendent. So thank you, everyone. He's thrilled.
There's no contract yet, though.
There's no contract yet, and so
So, just-
we are inviting Assistant Superintendent Nick Lightfoot to come to the table because now we enter into negotiations. But we are all thrilled.
Nick, just out of curiosity, how many of these have you been through since you've been here?
3.
Oh, okay.
As identified, we do, and just for the board's awareness, we did meet as an HR committee, reviewed the draft superintendent contract, so we have been through the terms of that contract. We did, throughout the course of the weekend, take a look at that draft one more time, and then collectively, what I will follow up with is that committee as we put together the final terms, and then, of course, the presentation and discussion that will occur with Dr. Thomas in collaboration with the HR committee. Just as a reminder, the HR committee, Clerk Wilhelm Garbers, Chair Andreessen, so both members will be involved with me. Then what you can look for is we'll update the board, but the placement of an agreement that we have come to mutually would be placed on the May 5th board meeting, which would be your next board meeting. Questions?
Any questions regarding the contract negotiations? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To you and the committee for the work on that. So I just have some very brief closing comments, if you can bear with me for 3 or 4 more minutes. So,
Yes.
First and foremost, just want to let you know that I will contact the other 2 finalists regarding your decision tonight, and I will let them know how much you appreciated their time and interest in this process. It was a lot of work, and superintendent candidates go through a lot to be considered by the board. So I will do that. I'll also have a press release to Toya and her team shortly. She will distribute it through your district's communications channels. I also want to note something that is unique to Hopkins. Toya and the communications team have been sharing some of the results on social media from the report you did with your community from the listening sessions and the survey. So for example, the thing about what are some of the great things happening in Hopkins Public Schools, they released that in a graphic on social media, so they're using real data from that survey to serve as the voice of the folks here, and it's a really great way to use it. I haven't seen a district do that before, so kudos to the team for doing that. I do recommend that you turn in your individual board notes to Nick. He will keep them in accordance with your data retention policies. Some of what you turn in, he won't need to keep, he'll shred it. But the things that you should turn in are your notes on all of the candidates from both the applications, round 1 interviews, and round 2 interviews. Okay, so he will be the receptacle for all of that information. So please turn that in before you leave tonight. I really, truly want to give a shout out to a few people, though, because this has been almost 4 months of work on behalf of a lot of folks. So I want to thank Natalia, a lot of coordination, a lot of assistance behind the scenes. Thank you. She did a fabulous job. I also want to thank Nick. He was a phenomenal resource for me internally as your HR and general counsel. Just his expertise and listening ear was very helpful. Toya and the entire communications team, from setting up the online focus groups and everything, just stellar work from them as well. And also Taylor from the sound booth here. Not a single glitch, the entire search with any of the online, anything, the audio, the virtual interview, nothing. So thank you back in there. Truly, she did a great job. The presentations ran smooth as silk, very unusual. I also want to thank Chair Andreessen. It's a lot of work to be a school board chair during a superintendent search, and you did an excellent job. You were responsive when I had questions. You were collaborative, and I think this is just an exemplary search. So thank you to all of you and for your leadership very much, Chair Andreessen, during this. I am going to be sending a survey to all board members, if that's all right. It's very short, maybe 2 minutes, but we would love to hear from you about what went well, what could have gone better. If you remember way back in January, we spoke about continuous improvement and how important that is to us. So the feedback from all of you, as well as the district points of contact, would be helpful. So I'll have that survey out to you probably tonight or tomorrow. So if you have time in the next week or so, before you forget everything that was a part of the search, please do fill that out if you could. Our role in your search is actually now complete. So I am going to exit stage left. You'll be in the very capable hands of Nick and the committee to negotiate the terms and contract with your next superintendent, Dr. Michael Thomas. But I will be back for the transition workshop. That is included in the search at no fee. So once the new superintendent is here, about a month into it, we'll reach out and we'll talk about scheduling that transition workshop where we'll talk about expectations for that first year, performance review process you will be utilizing. So going to be a really healthy conversation to get the board team off on the right foot as you learn to work together this coming year. So I will be back, but in the meantime, you have my phone number, you have my email address. Please stay in touch, and if MSBA can assist you with anything board-related, in addition to the search process, we would be more than happy to do that. So thank you for allowing us to work with you on this. It was truly an honor. And I am now done.
Thank you, Barb.
So again, expressing deep gratitude to you and your whole team.
Yes.
Seriously.
Thank you.
You were
And
wonderful.
with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Oh, any opposed? The chair votes aye, and we are, this special meeting of the Hopkins School Board is adjourned at 11:18 p.m. Well done, everyone.
Congratulations. Woo-hoo.